Welcome back to the Iceberg Mountain. We're really excited to have you here and pumped to talk to you about a topic that is dear to both of our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our second round. Our first round was a little incoherent, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, excited to talk about Larry Rosenstock for this episode. So Larry Rosenstock is someone that truly inspired me at the start of my career in education. My principal asked me to kind of lead this program, I guess to inspire the elementary. Found this video about Larry Rosenstock. It was kind of like a documentary. Goes around in his school, High Tech High in San Diego, California, in the States, and he talks about his education philosophy.
So my first exposure to Larry was through Dave, and I watched that same video. The thing that I love about him in particular is sees obstacles in education, but he also sees pathways around them. And he's really focused on student achievement and student engagement. The thing that appeals to me so much is that he has thought about this for so long and been through so many iterations that the advice he has is really distilled down into very simple concepts, are structured in a way that are relatively, I don't say easy to apply, but he provides a structure that you can use them and actually hopefully gain success in moving forward with an experiential education for your students.
Yeah, just to add on to that, if you watch interviews from Larry, you'll hear the same thing over and over again. And I think that's what is really cool about his work is everything that he does, it's based on these guided principles that he has established.
I was going to say, what we talked about today is that it kind of encompasses both the iceberg and the mountain for us. He is the iceberg in terms of challenging what's there and providing a pathway through, but also it made both of us feel like we need to aim really far in the distance and aim high for our students.
Yeah, and he just makes us believe that it's actually possible. People say, oh, well, I don't know if this is possible. For him, it's a question of will. And that brings a lot of hope to the stuff that we're trying to do in education. So what does the learning look like to Larry? Teachers and administrators, we have to constantly think about, are we systematically mispredicting who can and who can't do things based on race, social, economic status, standardized tests, even gender? And his whole idea is integration. He wants people from different social classes, people who have different abilities to all come together and learn together in an integrated way. But at the same time, giving everyone the same high expectations that they deserve.
Some of the other hallmarks of, in particular, High Tech High, which he was the CEO of for a period, treating students in basically an adult way, that they're given responsibility. One of the things he describes is the idea that he wants students to, when they're at school, feel like they're scientists or feel like that they're actors or that they're writers. Basically, he says that time in your teens is a great time to try on all these different personas and try and figure out for yourself what it is that you like and what you want to do. And he says providing a really challenging and authentic experience for them is the way to do that, so that they feel like there's a real purpose to what they're learning along the way.
Yeah, and he talks about adult world connections. One story or one project that he provides as an example is a team of high schoolers who partner up with the community as urban planners, and their goal is to make their community better. So really it's about this social change agenda, having students work on these projects that actually benefit people. Also, another fascinating thing that he talked about in his video was the term rigor. Going to different education conferences, I've heard different definitions for this term, and sometimes it's negative. But I really like the way he highlighted rigor.
I would argue that rigor is being in the company of a passionate adult who is rigorously pursuing inquiry in the area of their subject matter and is inviting students along as peers in that adult discourse.
Another thing he talks a lot about is teachers as creators. Creators of their own curriculum and projects that engage students. And when I think about that, sometimes I think about some of the programs that schools purchase are kind of incongruent with that. It's really about everyone at the same time, probably not connected to your local community. Doesn't necessarily provide opportunities for the rich discourse that you might have otherwise. There's one other thing that I really like that like David said, this is a theme that kind of comes up in different interviews if you ever get the chance to watch them, is the idea of like, what is a good teacher to Larry Rosenstock? And I think that's a really interesting idea too. When he's looking at a good teacher and what makes them a good teacher, he says what he's looking at in particular is the sophistication of the work that their students produce.
That's why I say to teachers, you want to know how we know whether you're a good teacher or not? The sophistication of your kids' work. If your kids are producing work that's worth doing, and that has lasting value, and learning that's worth learning, you're a good teacher.
I think that's an interesting thing to think about when we think about how teachers are assessed at school by principals and deputy principals. To look at that facet of what is the sophistication of the work that your kids are producing. It's not something that I've seen in my experience. And I think it would be a really engaging way to get teachers talking about their practice and how they involve their kids. And also that idea that you mentioned, David, about like systematically mispredicting where kids are going. That these would be times when, as an administrator, you could really help people grapple with that idea and develop cool projects that adapt to different kids at different abilities.
And also, Shaun, getting ready for this episode, a lot of the stuff that he was talking about is really culturally responsive teaching. It's an area in education that a lot of schools are really focusing on. So if you go to newamerica.org, they have 8 competencies for culturally responsive teaching. So reading through these competencies, you can see how they're connected to what Larry talks about, his philosophy. So for example, bringing real-world issues into the classroom, modeling high expectations for all students, promote respect for student differences, and also with High Tech High, the school that he's a CEO of, there's a lot of collaboration with families and the local community to create these really cool learning experiences.
What I like about Larry most is that he's very positive, but he's also very hardline about making sure that students are engaged, that they're at the center of the picture with planning and resourcing, that you're providing them with a genuine experience, like an experiential learning environment where they can grow themselves and become literally lifelong learners, like as all schools aspire to create.
The way he speaks, you can tell that everything that was designed through pedagogy, even the spaces, it's for the students to learn and create the best education experience possible.
There's a quote from Larry that I wanted to share. It's just around public education, and I won't read it directly, but essentially what he says is that everyone knows that public education is the number one intervention that can bust someone out of poverty or out of a bad situation and those sort of things, and yet it is like the least changed institution in our society. And I think that really says something about where schools are at, and that we do all have a responsibility to try and make some positive change and give kids the opportunity to be involved in their education and their own learning and prepare them for the future as they will experience it. As we said at the start, he's been a really inspirational force for us in the work that we want to be able to do to help engage students and to create really positive change in schools. And we hope that you might take some things away from the things we've said, but more so we really hope that it maybe inspires you to go and hop on YouTube or hop on Edutopia and look up some of the videos and interviews with him so that you can take it on board yourself and maybe feel some of that inspiration as well to make a move and make a change.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. It's really nice to get back in the swing of things again, and there are going to be more episodes to come. So until next time, be the iceberg
and climb your mountain.
All right.